Let's talk about something we all share but rarely ever think about, our soundscape. You know, the noise of our daily lives. There's this fragile, unspoken agreement that holds our communities together. And today, we're going to look at what happens when that agreement is completely shattered.
So I want you to think about this for a second. That public address system in your neighborhood, what's it actually for? Is it a lifeline? A tool designed to save your life in an emergency? Or has it kind of just become a party line for anyone's personal celebration? How we answer that question says a whole lot about us.
I mean, these systems are put in place for really critical stuff. Maybe a child is lost, there's an urgent traffic alert, or a life-saving warning that everyone needs to hear right now. But what happens way too often? They get hijacked for personal parties. When you blast music for a birthday, you're not just creating some noise. You're literally silencing the one tool that's meant to protect everyone.
To see just how dangerous this can be, we need to look at a real story. This is the story of a young man named Dhvanit, and one single night that changed absolutely everything for his entire neighborhood.
So Dhvanit is 22 years old, and like a lot of guys his age, he wants to be seen as, a king among his friends, the life of the party. So for his best friend's birthday, he cooks up this idea that he thinks is going to make him a legend.
And his plan? It was shockingly simple. He just waits until midnight, walks right up to the community's public announcement system, and plugs in his phone. That's it. In an instant, he's about to become the neighborhood's DJ, whether they want him to be or not.
Let's make some noise for the whole area. That was his thinking. He wasn't thinking about his neighbors or the elderly folks or, sleeping babies. Nope, his only thought was putting on a show for his buddies. His party was the only thing that mattered.
But here's the thing about our actions. They always create ripples. And his one night of so-called fun was about to unleash this wave of completely unintended consequences for the most vulnerable people in his community. And this is the part that gets overlooked. This is the hidden cost. In one house, there's a small child with a really high fever who had just managed to fall asleep. The music wakes him up, and he's just crying uncontrollably. In another home, an elderly man with a serious heart condition starts struggling to breathe because of the stress. Dhvanit thought he was the hero of the party. To them, he was causing real physical pain. But the situation was about to go from personal misery to a full-blown community crisis, a moment where every single second was about to count. You're not going to believe this. At the very same time Dhvanit is blasting his music, a short circuit sparks a fire in a building right nearby. The timing, it just couldn't have been worse, and the emergency services were already on their way.
The fire brigade gets there and immediately tries to use their own announcement system to get a critical safety message out. It was simple, it was direct, and it was meant to save lives. Stay indoors to avoid the smoke and clear the streets so our trucks can get through.
But no one heard it. The fire officer's urgent warning, literally the voice of safety, was completely and totally drowned out by the deafening party music coming from that community speaker. Dhvanit's fun had literally hijacked the channel of public safety. So what do you think happened? People hear the sirens, but they can't hear any instructions, so they panic. They do the exact opposite of what they were supposed to do. They run out of their homes and pour into the streets, creating absolute chaos, blocking the emergency crews, and people actually got hurt in the confusion. By the time the police finally showed up and shut the music down, the damage was done. In Dhvanit's story, it's not just about one kid making one bad decision. It's a huge lesson for all of us about our shared space and the responsibilities that come with it. Which brings us to some pretty important rules. It all boils down to this idea called civic silence. Think of it as the unspoken agreement we all have to keep our shared soundscape safe and respectful for everyone. It's not about being totally quiet all the time. It's about making sure that the channels for safety and for peace are always kept open. So the takeaway here is crucial. There are rules to this. Public address systems are for information, not for entertainment. We have to respect noise limits, especially near places like hospitals and in our own neighborhoods. And maybe most importantly, we have to remember that our personal fun should never, ever, ever block a channel that could save somebody's life. In the end, it really just comes down to a choice. A choice between, a few minutes of selfish fun that puts everyone around you at risk, or a shared sense of community well-being that actually protects all of us. What we decide to prioritize, that defines the kind of neighborhood we all get to live in. I want to leave you with this really powerful line from the source material that kind of reframes this whole idea of what it means to be strong. It says, "Real strength isn't found in making the most noise, but in respecting the peace of other people. True character is in the consideration we show to everyone around us.
So the next time you see a public microphone or hear a loudspeaker, I want you to think of Dhvanit's story and ask yourself, what is this for? Are you going to be a voice for the community, or are you just going to be more noise? The choice, as always, is ours.
एक कदम विकसित भारत की ओर।